Yes.
Rock and roll.
Good. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This work session is called to order. Mr. Truman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Public comment. All right. This brings us to a discussion of Texas Workforce Commission strategic plan goals and priorities for the fiscal year.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. I'm Randy Townsend. Wanted to take an opportunity. I appreciate you taking the time to do this with us, have this work session so we could have just a little pause and discuss our strategic plan that we had developed over a year ago. There's been a few things that have happened since then. Give each of you a chance to have some discussion about some priorities that have been presented, probably almost 2 years ago now, as part of I think the original intent of those priorities was for one of our local workforce boards to have a retreat, and each of you shared your priorities at the time. We developed our strategic plan. We've since had some legislative session. We've also had some work that's been done with our Workforce Investment Council on some of their strategic plan initiatives. And so I thought it would be good just to have that discussion as we kind of head into our upcoming fiscal 24-25 biennium. So I put together some materials as a starting point. Obviously, this is mostly I think an opportunity for each of the three of you to have some conversation with each other, with staff about your priorities that you see for the upcoming year, next couple of years, and what have you as we move forward. What I had prepared for this afternoon, just real high level, was had taken a look back at our goals that we had developed as part of our strategic plan, with the idea being that we would not just set that strategic plan on the shelf and not follow up with it. And follow through with it. And so, and then also took a look at our, just to make sure we were still aligned with our statutory provisions that lay out the purpose of this agency. And so when you do that, there's three goals that we had identified as part of our strategic plan. And did you need a copy of their? Okay. And so there was three goals, basically one focusing on employers, one on our skilled workforce, and then third one was what I called the quality customer service. And each of those we expanded out a little bit more beyond that as far as explaining each of those three goal areas. And then when you break that down to our statutory provisions, we have obviously still the goal area that deals with businesses, employers, and then within the worker category, skilled workforce, you had workers who essentially are currently employed, looking at how you might enhance their employability, earnings, et cetera, and then those folks that are making that transition into the workforce. And there's quite a few programs and services we provide in that regard, obviously. The third goal area kind of has two areas. One was dealing with communities, and I think this one is important as far as our statutory areas to talk about those communities of this state that provide economic incentive programs for job creation, attraction, and expansion. And so what can we do from the standpoint of supporting the local communities? And then finally, under that efficient, effective operations is just making sure we're good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. So that's the three goal areas that we identified, broken into the five as you look at the statutory provisions. And then what I did in the document there, just to kind of begin to summarize the priorities again, that was done a couple of years ago, was just how those fall out. And there were 11 priorities identified by each of the three commissioners here. And then we have since added to those priorities from the staff perspective. There's several areas that Mr. Cerna has identified as we look forward on the staff, from a staff perspective, operations that we want to make sure we stay focused on as an agency. And just kind of high level, those are the cybersecurity. It always talks about what keeps them up at night, and cybersecurity is certainly one of those. And that's a common theme across the United States, obviously not just Texas, not just the Workforce Commission, but cybersecurity protection. Obviously, still focusing on prevention of fraud, particularly identity fraud. In our unemployment insurance program, but anywhere else in our programs, customer service improvements, and then the procurement contracting area, so that as we get our grant programs out efficiently and that sort of thing. And then just looking at our staffing within TWC and how we can, from a human resources standpoint, make sure we're getting the resources we need, the talent we need, the skilled workforce to carry out our programs and our services. And so we kind of lump that under a HR revamp within TWC. And then finally, was the outreach of TWC programs and services. And so that's kind of what we lined out as far as the priorities there, and then made that connection back to the different, I think there's over 100 different activities and initiatives that have been identified. And then this afternoon, we have Mary, Courtney, Reagan, and Cheryl here at the table. If there's some discussion you want to get into, some of the services, what have you. But really, this is, at this point, I think the idea was to give you a chance to, if you want to have some discussion about your current priorities, but want to think about if there's different direction we should head or different direction we should receive and that sort of thing. So I'll just see if you have any questions about just the materials or how you got.
Not a lot of questions or anything at all in that regard. So Randy, the first document that you presented had 3 items from the employer side. I think that was the language that we had provided to someone at some point. It came back in the form of a public document. I hadn't seen that document, but I wanted an opportunity to really expand on that. And so we've done that, and I've shared with you a copy of that document. Share, pass that around to the team as well. I think it fits in line with what we're looking at, or what I'm looking at on the employer side, with input from the stakeholders that I serve, as well as those industry organizations and the like. I think the items that are mentioned here will fall into the categories that you've outlined already, those goals, 1, 2, or 3. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items that are there. If any can be merged, we can take liberty to do that as well. And so I'll just highlight them, Mr. Chair, real quick and get that out there. But expanded internship and other work-based learning programs that allow employers to train workers according to their specific needs, fostering a direct pipeline of skilled talent. That's goal number 1. That kind of fits into that area. Expand and enhance collaborations between workforce development agencies, education institutions, and industries to ensure that training and education align with the needs of employers. I would add economic development organizations to this list as well, to make sure that we're hitting workforce, economic development, and education agencies. And goal number 3 that may fit into that category. Continue to study and utilize data and analytics to identify trends, skills, gaps, in emerging industries, allowing policymakers to better align initiatives with industry and allow employers to make informed decisions about hiring, training, and talent management. 1 and 2 may fit into those categories. And then the other 3, I'll highlight quickly. Continue to support the development of new and innovative initiatives. Again, going along the areas of training, career connection opportunities to veterans, transitioning, foster youth, and people with disabilities, kind of covering all of our areas that way that are important to employers as well. Goal number 2 may fit into that category. And then prioritizing efficient and responsive customer service kind of speaks to the customer service side of things, making sure that we're not losing their communication, user-friendly resources, to ensuring a smooth and hassle-free experience for employers navigating the UI system. I think we're making progress towards that. But for employers in our state, that's very important. And so we want to make sure that that's identified. And that's number 3, I think, in that category, customer service and the like. And then lastly, support strategies that work to minimize unemployment insurance tax rates for employers, fostering a business-friendly environment that supports job creation. And that goes back to goal number 1, where we're making sure that businesses, employers in our state are able to thrive. And this is a way to make sure that we're doing what we can, as we have been doing, to make sure that we're impactful in that area. And so those are some items, commissioners, that we've lined out from an employer standpoint, again, with input from stakeholders as well, important items for that group. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair, on our side.
Well, thank you. First, Dr. Reagan.
I mean, the only thing I would have is, I think when we got this on Friday, it's the first time I had seen it, so it's kind of hard to understand what it was going. So like on that first page on the goals for goal 3, I don't know if I'm reading it right, but like we don't have really anything to do with quality customer service, right? On the very first page.
Yeah. I think maybe one explanation or one clarification here, what we had tried to do on the different activities and initiatives was trying to make that fall to one priority. Looking back after we had that conversation
Right.
with Commissioner, with you and some of your staff, there's clearly those activities can fall into multiple priorities. I don't think there's any doubt, and probably under each of the priorities that were identified for each of you as commissioners. And so one of the things we can, for the, for this next, as we go back now and learn from that, we can certainly match that up a little bit better.
Okay.
But we have been trying to maintain that one-to-one relationship, and obviously that's not how things actually in reality kind of work out. So that observation was something we need to take into account.
Right.
For the next iteration here.
So if I heard Commissioner Demerson right, I think like in response to how the activities are sorted and counted, I would like the chart to show that the activities and each priority description that it meets, and that it's possible for one of the activities to be have multiple priority descriptions. So like all three offices can kind of bounce back if that's okay with my fellow commissioners. Also to do the same with each activity as it relates to the goals. An activity may meet multiple goals according to this, so that if we could do that as well.
Mhm.
And then to determine the structure for prioritizing the activities based on a number of priority descriptions and goals that it meets. And then I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm gonna give this shot too. This is kind of like what we wanted to kind of add to L1. I would like to amend the current priority description listed in L1 to say expand apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, especially to in-demand occupations. And then I would like to also add the following, do an L4. To utilize career pathways as a holistic approach to serving our customers as an ongoing mechanism to enhance skills and knowledge for those in every stage of the workforce system. And then the last one would be L5, to encourage programs and initiatives that help veterans, people with disabilities, foster youth, interns, and justice impacted individuals to prepare for the workforce and obtain job placement. So I guess like my whole hope is that these additional priorities and descriptions complement the other offices as well, and that we can all work on that together. That's all I have.
Sure. That makes sense to me, Commissioner Trevino, in the sense of adding where we can. I wanted to ask a quick question on your L1, expand apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, especially to in-demand occupations. Do you want to include in-demand and non-traditional occupations where you get both of them, or is it you want to?
No, just the way it is, because the way it has IT, HR, and child. I mean, it's in-demand services. That way, the workforce boards can use those in-demand jobs and put those in as they see fit.
Okay. You said it doesn't limit anything really. It's all in-demand occupations.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right.
So. You said all you need to say.
Thank you.
I didn't want to cut you off. Couple things. The first thing is I hope we can quickly move past these labels that say it's public, employer, or labor. That once the commission's decided something, that's a TWC initiative. It doesn't matter who suggested it, doesn't matter who seconded it, doesn't matter who wrote it up. If the commission has taken some sort of affirmative action on that and said, yes, we're doing it, then that's a TWC initiative. That is neither a labor nor employer nor public commissioner initiative. And we need to take those labels off of those things. The apprenticeship programs no more belong to the public commissioner's office than they do the employer commissioner's office than they do the labor commissioner's office. That's just something that the TWC does, and it's a good thing. And so I fear in some ways these these particular labels, I think they're in some ways misleading because everybody's kind of working on things. Now, that's not to say, I mean, offices do things kind of singularly and not necessarily coordinated entirely with TWC. The employer office has a series of employer conferences that they do, and they should be doing that. The labor office, I think, in the past has done some specific newsletters relative to some things and things that are very much oriented toward labor groups, you know, those types of settings for the state. I guess I'm the lucky one. The public's everybody, so it's like if that's what it is, that's what it is, right? But it's like I'm not gonna not help, you know, a guy that's just looking for a job and he just wants a better job, because that's labor. That's for Commissioner Trevino to deal with. That's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna help the guy. Same, you know, an employer's doesn't like the way we do something, you know, in commission appeals. I'm not gonna not help that person. I'm just gonna refer them to the employer office and do that. But you know, there's gonna be times I'm gonna have a meeting and it's just gonna be something that I'm gonna do as a singular commissioner. The law provides for that in 301, and so, you know, we should definitely be doing these things. But when I look at a chart like this, you know, for our discussion today, okay, fine. You know, we've kind of identified some things. Honestly, I don't even remember the chart. I don't remember commenting on the chart that you used to fill this out. You showed it to me and I saw it.
I understand.
And I'm sure I said those things. I probably meant them. Still do in a lot of cases, but you know, that was something that happened during the passing of time. And I think for us as an agency, the more we can kind of nail down large concepts, you know, understand statutorily the 5 areas that we're really asked to work in, which you did like reference that. I think that's important. You know, the more we can do that and really kind of talk in terms of TOC, I think the better off we are. I don't think it serves the agency well when, you know, we decide that a particular initiative is the sort of, you know, project for one commissioner over the other. That doesn't help anybody. Apprenticeship is big enough. If all 3 commissioners aren't piling onto that, then you know, it's not going to work. I mean, plenty of employers are using it, plenty of labor organizations are using it. Frankly, the public benefits from it. That's a great example of that. Same for apprenticeship, same for foster youth, same for veterans programs. I mean, these are like large overreaching things that not only kind of encompass everything that's happening across all 3 commission offices, but also there's a VR component to all of those. There's an employer component to all of those, a workforce component to all of those, child care and everything. So it's like, we probably want to see our strategic plan and the things that we're doing really be grouped more toward our statutory responsibilities over time. This is a great starting point. I think as the conversation moves forward, I'd like to see us move toward how are we really kind of, you know, dealing with 301-001B and addressing the 5 components. Those are the pillars that TWC has to operate by. And you know, I'm looking down this chart on skilled workforce. The count of activity initiatives, supposedly the public commissioner contributed 28 of those, but it's like, I understand how you counted it. I don't dispute the way you counted it. I just feel more comfortable if we sort of talked about those in terms of the commission has made a policy decision. This is how we're moving forward. And this is a commission thing. You know, Courtney has a good idea. You know, I'll probably take credit for it at the next chamber banquet. I give a speech. That's just how it works. And if I have a bad idea, Courtney has to take responsibility for that at some point. But that's just sort of how teams work. But I want to continue to see us kind of moving toward this time that even if it's a staff originated initiative, once the commission checks off on it, that's my initiative now. I own that in its entirety. If it goes wrong, they're going to call me for comment. If it goes right, we're gonna talk about how great a job staff did and making sure that they brought that to our attention. And that's like ultimately where I'd like to get to. This document, I think fairly well kind of encapsulates where we are. The good news in this document is we seem to be kind of touching on everything statutorily that we're responsible for and that the legislature's asked us to focus on. More importantly, when we boiled that down to our strategic plan, we actually seem to be working on all elements of our strategic plan. Everybody seems to be focused on that. This is a lot of good news kind of contained in this document that I think we can work on. But I think getting toward this agency level, this TWC level thinking where once we've agreed to do it, then we're all in on that and we all do it. However, the document evolves into that's what I'm looking forward to. I think we end up with a really good document at that point.
Jim, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I looked at this, in my opinion, as a foundation, public employer, labor, staff, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a TWC driven document. I hope, Randy, that's probably where you were headed with this thing. An overall agency strategic plan is what we're doing for 2024. So.
I follow those sentiments exactly too. I think it's one bucket instead of three different ones. Yeah. Get it all done. So
from my perspective, that's obviously great feedback, and we can make those. I mean, I think that's a fairly easy thing to do. Obviously, we were working with a document that got produced a couple of years ago,
Sure.
kind of that point, and I think this is clarified kind of that what our direction is on that very, very clearly. So it's been helpful from my perspective at least, and so we'll just continue to work and make sure we stay focused on our priorities.
Glad I wasn't the only one that didn't recognize the document or didn't remember the document.
I saw it. I'm like, I'm vaguely.
I could have said that.
You like me, it sounds like something I'd say. Mary?
May I ask a clarifying question? I know in each of your remarks, you kind of, in addition to emphasizing some maybe additional things that weren't listed here, I think I heard you say that, we really need to look at where there's overlap between things. And especially, I guess, in this last comment, in terms of there not necessarily being individual commissioner priorities, but things being overall commission priorities. Would it be appropriate to see where there is overlap amongst some of these items and look and make sure that, and I'm going to use an example that maybe isn't the best example, but if internships are mentioned in 2 to 3 of those, look and see where and how we can consolidate into, 2 internship items or 1 internship item.
Well, in my perspective would be if internships are important to us, and they are, we're all well on record on that one. Then it's however many it takes. If like one great big one's good, fine, do that. If it needs to be 3 individual ones, but you also, I mean, like once you talk about internships, I mean, what else is there to say? If it's good for employers, and it is, I'll let Commissioner Demerson make a case for that, but it's good for employers, okay, then maybe it goes in the employer section. Certainly good for people who are entering the workforce, which is actually numbers 2 and 3 from the statute in terms of what we're supposed to be focusing on. So you can cover that, and then everything we do needs to be quality customer service. So you can either list it one time, you can talk about it through the 3 goals of the strategic plan, or you can classify it under the 5 pillars that the legislature put on us when they passed the law. But yeah, I mean, by all means, I think reducing them to kind of the necessary, like we don't need to use more words than we need to make ourselves plain here. More explanation generally doesn't result in more understanding. We just need to be clear from the outset.
Yeah, I think that's what I said when in the initial comments is basically this is a document that if it's been done elsewhere, it can be consolidated, then go for it. Feel free, take the liberties to do that. At the end of the day, will each 3 commissioners have an opportunity to see the final verbiage, and we'll make sure that there's nothing lacking that might be of interest to each one of us. But it's narrowed down from some issues like foster care. I've worked in that space heavy. Commissioner Trevino is working heavy in that space now. It's gonna merge somewhere, but as the chairman stated, it doesn't mean that it resides with one office. And so from that standpoint, we'll all be participating in those activities. And so consolidation where necessary, less words, strategic approaches to it is the direction that we should be taking. I'll be advocating on behalf of the employers, and that's pretty much it from that standpoint. But I think we'll all get a chance to see the verbiage and go from there. So consolidate where you can and how you can.
And just like I had said earlier about like the activities relating to the goals, an activity may meet multiple goals for the different offices. So that's what I think my point was. And just looking at this for like the fresh eyes, I guess, if you want, if you will. Just kind of seeing that will work together and fill in where it needs to be.
Thank you.
Let's do this. I'm gonna have a motion here, that will state that we want staff to take the information that was distributed by commissioners here today, incorporate those into the plan as described. To take the rest of the commentary that you heard from commissioners today about this, make the necessary revisions to start to resemble that, and bring that back to a regularly scheduled commission meeting at a date in the future that's appropriate for this, giving you enough time to do your work. So I move what I just said. If there's a second, we can move forward on that piece of action.
Concern, can we add to that?
Yeah,
Is that the document that comes back to the commission is a document that lays out whatever those strat plans or those goals or whatever it is that we've laid out here, under one umbrella, missing without the employer, commissioner, workforce, labor, and exactly just one document.
I accept that amendment as well.
I second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
Yes, I agree.
All right, 1, 2, 3, we're unanimous.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else that we need to discuss here today?
I
Sir?
Regarding this.
No,
Maybe-
there's so much more, Mr. Singer, so much more.
Oh, is this not the end of the meeting?
No,
I
it's
was
the
ready to mention ice cream. We're going upstairs. Okay, let me get back on track here.
Is there any other business come before the commission?
So there is no other business.
No.
Are you getting ready to adjourn this meeting?
All right.
All right,
Would you
there's
like
ice cream on the third floor.
We
thank
still have
you.
lots of ice cream.
Melted ice cream is
Lots.
good.
No, we have a freezer. It's hopefully frozen again.
I like melted
How-
ice
how'd they
cream.
get a
Let's stir it up. So
Sorry. There's no other business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
there is a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Been moved second to adjourn. We are unanimously adjourned.
I thought you were getting ready to line up
Yeah.
a lot more work.
No.
Okay. I'm getting too excited.
That's funny.
All right, that was painless.
Painless, yeah.
When you need sharp elbows. Yeah, get there first.
It's a good paper.